Today I'm going to be introducing you to the idea of culture change and globalization. So before we get into how globalization actually changes culture, we first need to understand what globalization even is. Globalization is basically the growing connection of people, goods, and ideas across the world. And the big thing to notice here is how much faster and bigger these connections have become. If you look at the world map on the slide, all those lines represent movement, trade, travel, communication, media, constantly flowing between countries. Because things move so quickly now, what happens in one part of the world can influence someplace completely different almost immediately. And it's this speed and scale that set the stage for major cultural changes, which we'll start breaking down in the next slides. Now, let's talk about something called time-space compression, which is one of the main reasons globalization feels so fast today. Basically, time-space compression means that places that used to feel far apart now feel closer because of technology, travel, and communication. A good example of this is the sushi supply chain. Fish caught in Japan can be processed, shipped, and sold in the US incredibly quickly because refrigeration, airplanes, and tracking systems move everything so much faster. This is an example of time-space compression because technology allows food to be caught, processed, and shipped and sold across the world in as little as 1 to 3 days. And because these global connections move at this speed, cultural ideas, foods, and trends spread almost instantly across the world. Now we're moving into something called globalization, which is taking a global idea or product and reshaping it to fit a local culture. The global ideas being shared here include consumer culture, modern lifestyles, and the idea of belonging to a global community. If you look at the examples on the slide, you could see how this works in real life. For instance, Starbucks in China sells mooncakes during the Mid-Autumn Festival. Mooncakes are a traditional pastry people share during a holiday. That's about family reunion and celebrating the harvest. So Starbucks is adapting a global brand to fit a really specific local tradition. It's still the same global brand, but the product is customized to match a local tradition. Another great example is Kit Kat in Japan. They offer flavors like matcha green tea and even sake, which you're not going to find in most other countries. And Netflix India does the same thing by creating original shows in Hindi and Tamil to connect with local audiences. All of these show that globalization isn't just one way. People mix global ideas with their own culture to create something new. Now, syncretism, which is just a fancy word for what happens when elements from different cultures blend together to create something totally new. If you look at the examples on the slide, you can see how common this actually is. Reggaeton, for instance, combines Caribbean rhythms with hip hop and Latin pop, and has become a global music genre because of that mix. Streetwear is another great example. A lot of modern street fashion blends Japanese design with American skate and hip hop influences, creating a style that fans all over the world recognize. And even shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender mix Japanese anime-inspired animation with Western storytelling. All of these examples show how cultural blending doesn't replace traditions, it transforms them into something new. Alright, so now we're going to break down how a global supply chain actually works, using sushi as the example. It starts with fish being caught at a fishery in Japan. From there, it goes into a processing facility where it's cleaned, cut, and packed. After it enters what's called the cold chain refrigerated shipping that keeps the fish safe and fresh while it travels long distances. That's where the trucks, cargo containers, and airplanes come in. All of these steps work together to move the fish across the country without it spoiling. And once it reaches the US, it gets distributed to grocery stores where it finally ends up in the sushi case you see every day. This whole process is a perfect example of time-space compression in action. Now let's look at how globalization spreads media and ideas, which honestly might be the part you experience the most in everyday life. If you look at the images on the slide, you can see how platforms and fandom networks link people across the world. Through media like music and social platforms, global ideas about identity, beauty standards, and lifestyle spread across borders and influence how people see themselves. Think about things like K-pop, anime, or viral social media trends. These don't stay in one country, they spread globally almost instantly. The internet lets fans connect with each other no matter where they live, and that creates communities that share music, languages, and styles. And as people remix these influences, new global trends start to form. So globalization isn't just about products moving around, it's also about how fast ideas, art, and creativity travel and shape culture everywhere. So now let's take a look at some of the positive effects of globalization, because there are really a lot of benefits that show up in everyday life. If you look at the slide, you could see a few examples. One of the biggest positives is access. We're able to enjoy foods, products, and media from all over the world that we wouldn't have had otherwise. Whether that's trying new international cuisines, listening to global music, or watching shows from different countries, globalization makes all of that possible. It also increases creativity. When cultures interact, people combine ideas in new ways, which leads to things like fusion cuisine or global music collaborations. And finally, globalization helps people learn about other cultures, which can build understanding and connection across countries. So, now that we talked about the positives, it's important to look at the negative effects of globalization as well. If you look at the images on the slide, you can see a few examples. One major issue is cultural loss. When global brands spread everywhere, they push out local traditions or replace small businesses. A lot of local restaurants and shops struggle to compete with huge international chains. Another problem is economic inequality. Big corporations often profit on a global scale, while smaller communities don't see the same benefits. There's also an environmental cost. Cargo ships, factories, and constant shipping produce a lot of pollution and waste. And finally, globalization can create power imbalances, where wealthier countries and companies end up shaping what cultures and products become popular worldwide. Alright, so to wrap everything up, let's bring up all of these ideas together. Globalization connects people, goods, and ideas across the world. And because those connections move so fast, they end up reshaping culture in a lot of different ways. Throughout this video, we looked at 3 big concepts that explain how this happens: time-space compression, globalization, and syncretism. Time-space compression shows how distant places feel closer. Globalization explains how global products get adapted to fit local traditions. And syncretism shows how cultures blend together to create something new. Once you understand these processes, you can start spotting them everywhere, in foods, media, fashion, and even in your everyday routines. So hopefully this helps you see not just what globalization is, but how it actively changes the world around us. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.